Hello, welcome to Imperishable Consciousness, a platform where I, the host, Adrian Camacho, dive into topics with different community members, leaders, and people with ambitious aspirations. I would like to thank you for your time, and I hope that you, the listener, are able to take something from today's episode that you can use and apply to your own life. Today is episode 2, which is being recorded on December 13th, 2023. I just want to start off by thanking our guests, our special first guest of the Imperishable Consciousness podcast platform. He is a self-made entrepreneur, solar salesman, multi-business owner, leader, community change maker, and most importantly, one of my closest friends from my hometown, Aaron Torres.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on the podcast.
Yep, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
So, first of all, I'd like to thank you for being our first guest. One of many more who will be joining us on the Imperishable Consciousness podcast platform, where we look to inspire the younger generations while also recording and preserving modern history. So, to start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and just any background that has made you who you are today.
Yep. So my name is Aaron Torres. I am 20 years old. I graduated Rolling Meadows High School in 2021. A little bit about myself. I would say that I'm a pretty adventurous person. I think I definitely value maybe doing things that are outside the traditional norm, but I like to have a good story at the end of the day. So that leads me down a lot of different paths.
For sure, and we'll be able to record that, hopefully, with today's episode.
I hope so.
So, for those of you who might not know, you already have a couple businesses started. Would you like to share what those are and how those are going for you currently?
Yeah, so the one that I'm kind of pouring my time back into right now would be a landscaping business. It's called Four Season Helpers. I can't take all the credit for it. There were two other business partners, Michael O'Keefe and Shizuki Hara. Shizuki Hara being the main founder, but it was a business that we started senior year of high school, which for us was unfortunately during COVID. So that meant we just had a lot of extra time on our hands, and Shizuki started the business actually going door to door with a screwdriver, asking to pull weeds for people. He eventually got Michael on and then me on board, and it slowly just started to kind of snowball into something of actual substance.
Sure.
We got a Facebook made. We ended up getting an LLC filed later that year, and this is all while still going through high school, our senior year. And it kind of gave us an opportunity to learn a lot about not only business, but also about finance, which I think is very important for young people to learn about. And the business kind of got put on the back burner because people ended up going to college, people ended up moving away, but it is going to be a main focus of mine for 2024 for sure, and trying to grow it and also scale it while keeping quality under control.
Yeah, so for sure, like you mentioned, Four Season Helpers was the first one. Do you care to mention the other one? Do you want to dive in on that one?
Being
Zooted Cat Tea?
Oh, that was yeah. I guess it'd be considered a business, yeah. I'd say it was more of almost like a passion project. It was, again, started by Shizuki, and I just did my best to help him out, but that was kind of trying to dive into the e-commerce space, because one of the big problems with landscaping business is scalability, right? You're limited to what you can do by yourself. So I think that I was really curious about how people do stuff online. In 2023, I guess about to be 2024, everything is online digital. So I wanted to kind of learn about scalability and what that looked like with the online space. So Zooted Cat Tea was like a 3 or 4 month project that was consisting of catnip, but in tea form that you give to your cats. And we tried to market it online, TikTok, Instagram, and we sold a couple, but it was more of a learning lesson than
For sure.
anything.
So what would you say that you learned from that experience and just in general from your business so far? Like, what kind of advice would you give to the people that are listening? Like, what challenges did you guys face with the e-commerce space? Like, just in general.
I'd say that we often spend a ton of time on our phones, right? Like my screen time's 10 hours, whatever. It's just consume. And I think that, at least for me personally, there's a part of human ego where I'm like, oh, I could make content, I could totally do that. And then trying to make content that's centered around an action, because there's content, right? But trying to create content okay, now when they're done watching, you want them to buy something. It's kind of a different ball game. And I faced a lot of challenges with consistency or finding what worked, trying to play the algorithm game. And I think that definitely was a big challenge of mine, because the content side is just one side of it. On the back side, you have product, trying to ship stuff, trying to, just get all your eggs in order. And then
For sure.
you have to also do the content. It's like the content's like a full-time job in and of itself.
You kind of need a marketing team for that, right? Social media team.
Yeah, and I just don't know if the Zooted Cat was the product to get
Sure.
a marketing team on.
That's good for our listeners to know if they're trying to start their own business, that these are maybe some problems they might face, or some obstacles or hurdles along the way.
Yeah, I would like actually listen to like podcasts and like take notes about like growth tips on Instagram or
Yeah.
TikTok, 'cause it's so difficult.
Yeah. And going off that, I know you mentioned Michael and Shizuki as two of your helpers that have helped you, or even coworkers, I should say, that have helped you scale these businesses. But who else has helped you grow these businesses so far?
Yeah, I would say Michael and Shizuki absolutely were like, I know you mentioned like helpers or friends, but they were absolutely like founders. I want to give them their credit.
I couldn't find the right word. I don't want to talk down on them, but I meant like co-owners or
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah, I'd say Michael and Shizuki, obviously, and then my cousin Tomas, he's 10 years older than me. He has a bachelor's in business as well as chemistry, and he's kind of stepped up to be like a mentor for me in a way, and he's taught me a lot about, entrepreneurship and business stuff. And I remember we used to hop on like weekly calls in high school, me, Michael, Shizuki, and then Tomas, and every week we'd go over like how our week went, how we could grow and stuff like that. So I'd say my cousin Tomas has played like a pivotal, essential part in all the businesses.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned, the weekly like check-ins, I feel like that's something that like they do at obviously like a grand scale or like a major
Right.
scale for like I worked at True Lacrosse for a little bit, and that's what we did, like progress reports, weekly progress reports, and like how our sales went and stuff like that. It's like it's pretty cool to see that you guys were even doing that with like 3 people, and that you guys are that dedicated to it.
Right.
So I applaud you for that. Aside from that, though, how have these businesses really allowed you to get involved within your communities, and what have you been able to learn throughout this process?
I'd say community. I mean, it was on our business cards. It'd say 4 season helpers, and then it'd say community-centered lawn care.
Yep.
Because I think at the end of the day, businesses are about making money. There's no way around it. But lasting businesses are about community, right? What can you do for others outside of, a service or a monetary reward? And I think that's how businesses really hit the next level, is when they could kind of tug on that emotional. So I think, at least for me, with 4 seasons, it was often kind of sad actually, but like seeing older people, their kids, it's like kind of the generation like maybe like they're in their 60s to 70s, so their kids are like 30, they got their own life going on, so maybe they don't pay attention to mom and dad as much. But when it snows, you got a 60, 70-year-old who's like, I can't shovel the snow. And so it's kind of, these people all have stories, and so sometimes
For
it's
sure.
like, all right, this old lady keeps talking, but it's kind of nice, to hear everybody's individual story, especially in like a neighborhood like ours.
And sometimes that's like the person that you're providing that service, sometimes that's their only time to talk to somebody. Like they might not have somebody they can talk to on a daily basis, or even like a weekly basis, or they might just have cats or check in with by phone calls with their grandkids, or you know what I mean. So that's pretty cool that you were able to play that role in people's lives, in my opinion. Aside from that, though, in what ways do you personally try to make changes within your community?
I'd say as of recently, I've slowly been finding religion, I guess. I've never really been raised to be religious at all. So I think that in the past year or so, I've been exploring that a little bit more, and it's definitely led me to be more grateful for life. And I think that once you recognize your gratitude for life and existence, you kind of want to provide for others. So actually just today I was at Feed My Starving Children with Joseph, and we were there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. And I'd like to get more involved for sure, because I think that people need to step up into positions, and I'd like to be a leader within my community. So I'm not quite sure what that looks like just yet, but I know it's something I want to definitely dive into in 2024.
Yeah. We are both 20 years old, so we still have a lot of time to grow as leaders in our community, but we are looking for different ways to do that.
Yes.
But you did mention Feed My Starving Children. Do you want to kind of describe that to the viewers if they're not familiar with it, if it's not really in their area?
Yeah, that's true. Because I was actually looking for one in California, and I couldn't find one. So I don't want to mince their true definition, but Feed My Starving Children, I believe, is a nonprofit where you volunteer, and they have kind of like assembly lines where you can make food pouches that go to people of need in other countries, such as Africa or South America or Asia. And so you go in there, spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with like a group of 5 to 6 people. You put food in bags, and then they package it up and send it out. So it's a pretty cool group.
Yeah, and I've been able to do this myself also in high school because I was kind of popular within Rolling Meadows High School, our area, our community. A lot of sports teams did that. I know the football team did that for summer camp, I believe. But aside from that, like it's very cool and very rewarding to see how many meals you pack. They show you on the screen. They show you how many people you'll be able to feed. So it's a very like powerful and meaningful project that I applaud, and I feel like we need more things like that within our communities and just in general within our planet.
For sure. And I think with Feed by Starving Children, too, it kind of like gamifies it because there's like a real number attached to it. Like you said,
want to be other teams and stuff like that, right?
Right. Or it's like
for other groups in the past.
You fed this many kids for a year. You packed this many boxes. It's like, okay, well, I want to do more. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty
Yeah,
fun.
you might want to come back another time and beat your own score or whatever.
PR.
It was. Yeah, personal record. But aside from that, on to like a more personal note, I've seen on your social medias that you've been running a lot recently.
Yeah.
What events have you completed recently, and what is the next event that you're looking to train for?
Wow, that's a great question. I just recently ran a half marathon in California called the Big Bear Half Marathon.
Nice.
So that'd be the event I completed most recently. As for what I'm looking to run next or train in would be the Brooklyn Half Marathon in May. The half marathon that I just completed, I was kind of not really that consistent with my training, and I kind of wanted to challenge myself with that. So I was like, you know what? I'll do the half marathon. So I completed it. It was a lot of fun. I think giving myself till May, it'll kind of allow me to build like a really solid foundation and take it really serious to hit it hard.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if you want to dive into this, but like, do you want to give like the viewers a little background on like your running, I don't know, career? Like you started a little bit late, did you not, in high school?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I started cross country my senior year of high school during COVID. Again, it was kind of like, you know what, whatever.
Why not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of friends on the team, so I was like, you know what do I have to lose, you know? Yeah. And I was one of the slower people on the team, which was definitely a kind of a struggle mentally, you know, because like Steven Barretto, he's running
he's like a state. He's like a state. He placed at state, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, he's like a state qualifier, state top 3, top 5, whatever it was. So he's setting records for the school.
Yeah.
And Aaron's a first year senior runner.
Right.
Comparing himself to him. Comparison is the thief of all joy. That's all I gotta say.
That's a great quote. But like at practice, you know, it's like if Steve and Michael and Shizuki are running, they're running like 7-minute pace, having conversation. That's like my race pace. So I'm like, like trying to keep up to talk with them. So I definitely learned a lot about, you know, running and just about, I'd say like my body in a way, you know, like when you run, you look at your nutrition. What are you eating now? You know, how do you feel? How do your legs feel? You pay more attention to those little nuanced things.
Yep, for sure. And around that time was the time we started lifting together, I believe, in high school, right? During COVID? Yep.
Yeah, senior year.
And just the main point that I wanted to get that with that kind of like little story or background information was that like Aaron did not start off running half marathons. It worked his way up to this point, and it's only been what, 4 years maybe?
Yeah, like 3 years, honestly.
3 years, 3 years or so since senior year of high school. So yeah, he's came a pretty long way since then. It's pretty inspirational for the viewers, I would say. If you want to take that from this episode, maybe that's something that I definitely can. Is that if you put your mind towards a goal, 150% effort, and that you just, train your mind, train your body, that you can accomplish something. So thank you for that, Aaron. Thank you for sharing that with our viewers.
Of course.
Aside from that, tell us a little bit about your reasoning behind your move out to California after high school and how you've been able to sell solar out there.
Yeah, so after high school, in high school, again, I could blame it on, COVID or whatever other factors, but ultimately it came down to me. I wasn't that dedicated with school. And COVID, I guess, kind of brought that to fruition. So in a way, I'm grateful for that because I think without COVID, maybe I would have been in school right now and things would be different, whatever. But I'm grateful that COVID kind of shined the light on I'm not meant to be in school. I'm not really the best student. So after high school, I was just, working, and I just kind of felt like there was more to be said than just working at UPS at the time.
Yeah.
And so I got the opportunity to move to California, and I took it and ran with it. No pun intended.
Yeah, for sure. So when you moved out to California, like, what did you move out there with, if you don't mind me asking?
My car and $1,600.
Yep. And what would you say that the experience was? Like, would you say that it was rewarding that you learned a lot out there?
The whole experience, or when I first got there?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I kind of wanted to have you on, even is just kind of talk about
Yeah.
that, like kind of like the grind. Going out there by yourself, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
having to, like thug it out for a little bit. Like maybe in like the meals that you were eating. I know I saw in your story, like what I'm saying, like just in
Yeah,
general.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
trying to save money, just
Right. So
dive into whatever you want. These are one of the topics that you can do whatever you want on.
yeah, yeah. So I guess on the topic of like entrepreneurship, and a very important lesson that I learned is prior to that I was working at UPS and also I was doing the landscaping on the side. So any extra cash I had at the time, like I said, I was learning about finances, investing, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna lose all my money to inflation if I just keep it in the bank. I need to have my money working for me. Dave Ramsey, whatever, Robert
Yeah.
Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I gotta invest my money. So
Yeah.
literally like 90% of the money I was making, I was throwing it into the market, like into crypto and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I had the opportunity to move to California, and I took it on really short notice. And I'm glad I did that. But then when I looked at my bank account, $1,600 isn't nothing. I don't want to, say that at all. But moving to a new state where you have to pay rent by yourself at 19 and groceries and all that stuff with not knowing when you're going to get paid next, it's like, ooh, that's not a ton of money. So
Yeah.
right away,
One thing, maybe go into that a little bit, because like you were working solar at the time, right?
yes, when
So,
I moved to California.
Yeah, and explain that maybe to the viewers, because like you said, like you don't know when your next paycheck's coming. Like
Right,
maybe
right,
explain the
right.
solar process, like how you get paid by that. And
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So the solar sales, it was 100% commission. It was not hourly at all. So if you didn't sell anything, you didn't get
Yep.
paid, like nothing. And there's definitely a steep learning curve to it with, I didn't know sales and I didn't know solar and I didn't know California. So there's definitely, I was like rock bottom, didn't know anything. And on top of that, I didn't have any money. And so with the process getting paid with solar is you would get paid if you found a job. So you'd go door to door, knock, pitch them on solar. If they were interested, they signed up, great. You would get paid at install, which could be anywhere from 2 to even 8 months after where you get paid. So even if I got a deal my first day in California, I might not get paid for another 3 months just because that's how the process would go.
Yeah, for sure. So that could be really tough for like a young guy, like you said, out there, and 19 years old, California, new state. You don't even know, like, I don't know, even like any leads in a sense,
Right, right. I didn't
even
know
the neighborhoods that are interested in it, any of that stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
maybe so for the viewers, like maybe anybody that's interested in that, just going out into like a new state, like that's like in, I don't know, sales, entrepreneurship. Like, how did you find those leads? How did you go about that? Like,
Yeah, I think it boils down to back to me not really having any money at the time because, like I said, I guess I had money, but I didn't want to pull anything from investment, right? Because I feel
Yep.
like just personal principle, like if I invested it, I should leave it there. So that left me with not a ton of cash. So luckily I did have a car. So I think when your back's against the wall, like the only way to go is forward, right? And that
For sure.
sounds so
Yeah.
corny to say or whatever, but it's
can I
like,
say one thing?
yeah, go for
The
it.
only way is through, Can't
Exactly.
go back.
Exactly. So I didn't have any money. I didn't have any family out there. I didn't have any friends out there. And I was like, well, I might as well just work, right? What else am I going to do with my time? So I spent a lot of time, learning, researching stuff on my own time about solar, about California, about everything. And that kind of allowed me, it's kind of that just like you said earlier, thug it out, hustle mentality.
Yeah.
It's allowed me to propel myself forward.
Yeah, like what resources did you use though? Maybe like what did you like go door to door? Did you sit outside of Walmart?
Yeah, yeah. So I think at first the main thing was the utility company. When you would pitch solar, you want to harp on kind of how bad the utility company is. So I would just research everything about the utility company. Did they raise their rates? The utility company out there is Southern California Edison. I believe they're a publicly traded company. So how much profit they made last year is like a public figure. So I'd look that up. I'd talk to the people in my office who had like the most success. I'd be like, hey, what's your pitch? Can I pitch practice with you? Can you help me out with this? Can you knock with me or like go with me on the doors and tell me what am I doing wrong? How do I sound? I'd record myself. I'd say it in the mirror. I would just try and do pretty much everything that they told me because I feel like also people in California that I met there who did solar, you kind of have a safety net, right? You got your parents, you got your friends. You don't really take it as serious. A lot of the people that really killed it in California were the people who were from out of state because you kind of want to hustle for those resources.
Yeah, for sure. That kind of leads me to my next question. What are some of like the most influential people that you met while you were in California?
Yes, so I would say Nathaniel Glidewell. He was a roommate of mine, and now he's definitely one of my best friends. He helped me out so much just He was like top dog in our office. He ended up becoming a manager, and he really took on another. I'd say him and Tomas were like my two mentors. Tomas happens to be my cousin, so he's blood, but
Yeah.
I call him Glide for short. He didn't have to do that, right? He's not blood. He doesn't owe me anything. He's 10 years older than me, but he's just such a stand-up guy. He really took me under his wing to teach me a lot of things. So I would say he was definitely like the most influential and probably my, I don't want to make anyone upset, but probably my favorite person I met in California for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else that you met that kind of like maybe like, I don't know, gave you resources, like just was like a valuable connection that you made?
Yeah. I would say my manager, Brian Amaro, he, took me under his wing as well and taught me a ton about business and also about being a great leader. Because I think that you have bosses in life. We all have bosses, but I think he was a true leader.
Yeah.
And I think I definitely looked up to him a lot and value a lot of his leadership ways because, people have to come into work, right? But what makes a good leader is when the people come into work and they're excited to work, when you could feel that energy. And I think he did a really good job of cultivating an environment in which the energy is always amped up and always on go, which is awesome.
What were some of those things that maybe he did that implemented into like the work environment? Do you remember some things like that maybe?
Yeah.
Like share with the viewers?
Yeah, I would say just he cared, You could tell when somebody like kind of doesn't care, they shrug it off. But I felt like every time I talked with him, whether it was one-on-one or in a group setting, like I was getting his full attention. He really listened to me. He would ask me like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And stuff like that. He'd ask really thought-provoking questions that somebody in his position didn't really have to do, but you could tell he took the extra step. He'd invite, like I said, I don't have any friends there, so he'd invite me over to UFC nights, World Cup games, football games. Do you want to come with to this, to that? And it just really made me feel welcomed, I guess.
Yeah. That's definitely very important to have somebody like that in your life, especially when you're out of state and
For sure.
really, you don't even know what's next,
Right.
So that kind of leads me to my next question. You're obviously here with me in Beloit, Wisconsin.
Correct.
Your first time being here. What kind of brings you back to Illinois though so far for now?
Yeah, so I was out in California for about a year and a half, and I enjoyed a lot of my time. The main two reasons why I wanted to leave California or leave Illinois, I guess, in the first place was kind of two reasons. One, I didn't really have like the best at home life at the time, and so I was just kind of seeking any way to leave that, which California presenting itself. So that was the first reason. The second reason is I wanted to learn sales, right? I feel like I've always been a pretty talkative person, and I kind of wanted to dive into sales, but I didn't really know how to. So once I got the opportunity to come to California, it allowed me to leave home and learn sales.
Yep.
And when I spent a lot of time in the past couple months reflecting on, why I came out there, I feel like I kind of achieved those two things. I left home, I learned sales, and I also felt like I was just kind of growing stagnant. That initial hunger I talked about, where like backs against the wall you go through.
Yeah.
I feel like I lost that, and I was cognizant of the fact that I lost it, which isn't a good feeling. It kind of makes you feel, I don't want to say depressed. That's not a word to be like thrown around, but I'd say stuck or in a funk, I just didn't really feel too good about myself. And like I said, when I looked back, it's like I kind of achieved what I wanted to achieve. I kind of wanted to treat my time in California kind of like a college per se, just learn as much as I can, absorb as much as I can. And I felt like I did that. So I felt like the best way when you're stuck with anything is like action right away. And to me, that looked like coming back to Illinois.
Yep, for sure. That's definitely very important. Is to when you notice you're like plateauing in life, like self-awareness is very important.
For sure.
And I feel like that's a very good example of self-awareness right there.
And I think that I have to credit, people like, Glide with that, because he was someone I was able to really talk through, because he's been in my, spot before, being from out of state, being in California. So just having somebody to speak to about that and to be 100% transparent with was really nice to have through that whole process.
And just kind of going into like the California, like last California thing, like how many roommates did you have? Like if you want to dive into that, like just to kind of paint the picture to the people,
Yeah. So when I first got to California, I was sleeping on a air mattress, I think, in a guest bedroom with this dude, Kareen's house. Shout out Kareen. I had, like I said, shout out Kareem. I did not have a lot of money at all. I met him once through my cousin Tomas before, like literally one time, 2 years prior to me moving there. So like I was a complete stranger to him, and he's just such a cool dude. Like he let me move into his house pretty much, and he knew I didn't have money, and we never kind of talked about rent. It was always kind of something that was like danced around, you know. He never asked me for any money, and with the process of rent, your payment with the solar job being delayed, he knew I wasn't going to have that money for a little bit down the line. So he ended up essentially like fronting me the money for rent those first 2 months,
Yep.
August, September. So I did end up paying him back later on once I did get paid 100% because
Yep.
I owe him a ton. But that was the first spot I landed at. After that, I had a little bit of money. I moved into what was called like a grind house, and
The grindhouse.
there was 4 people living in there, but there was a weird situation with the landlord, which I'm not going to dive into. But long story short, I was paying rent to sleep on a couch in a front living room, and the living room was shared with another person. So it was me and another dude, both sleeping on opposite couches, and that lasted for like 2-3 months before I got a room. But I ended up moving around in California like 6 times, and towards the end of it, it was 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment with a German Shepherd.
With the German Shepherd.
That got very hectic, and that definitely kind of like nailed it home. Like,
Yeah.
all right, what am I doing here?
Yeah. But to say the least, you kind of went from rags to riches in California a little bit, right? You kind of upgraded now.
I don't know if rags to riches.
Not riches, but like compared to sleeping on the couch, you at least got
Right,
your own
right.
room. You're 19 years old. You went out there with nothing. You
Right.
know, like
No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like
that's
I
what I was
said,
getting at. You know, like,
Yeah.
none of us are. I mean, riches. You know,
Right,
we're not
right.
millionaires. We're not. I mean,
Yet.
yet. Yeah, no, obviously yet. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, I remember when I first moved out there. I would eat Chipotle once a day because Chipotle has the rewards app, so I'd
Yeah.
get the points for it. I would like look in the trash if there was like a receipt on top, and like I wasn't gonna fully dumpster dive, but I would scan the receipt that was on
Yeah.
top. And I remember one time I was on the phone with my oldest sister, Amanda. Shout out Amanda. And she was like, "Oh, like, blah blah blah." Like, we were just talking about my day. She's like, "Did you eat?" And I was like, "No." It was like 4 o'clock. She's like, "What do you mean
Yeah.
you didn't eat?" I'm like, "Well, I'm saving money." And she's like, "No, Aaron, like you need to eat." Blah blah blah. And she kind of got upset at me because like it was out of love, not out of care, obviously.
for sure.
I was just hustle mode. I was like, nah,
Yeah.
I don't gotta eat right now. Like, I'm locked in.
No, yeah, I understand that. Like sometimes, like even I find myself doing that, like out of like just kind of like being on go mode. Like you said, you just don't even find the time to eat. You're like sometimes you're hungry, but then you work through it, and then you're not even hungry anymore.
Exactly.
That's kind of like the entrepreneur mindset. I feel like so. I don't know. That happened to me like a week ago. I went like a 24-hour fast on accident.
Especially now with like finals coming up, like you have deadlines and stuff to operate
Yeah.
on.
Aside from that, though, you kind of talked to us a little bit earlier, but like, what has really inspired you to become an entrepreneur and like overall your own boss?
Man, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, 1 second. What has really inspired you to become an entrepreneur and overall your own boss?
I would say what inspired me to kind of become, I guess, an entrepreneur would be, first off, just seeing like my family struggle growing up. The struggle wasn't immense or whatever. There's obviously people out there struggling more, but things, money.
You just want better for your family though in general, right?
Right. Yeah. Money was tight as a kid, and just seeing my parents, work really hard. It's like, what else is out there besides this? Besides just working all day, 40 hours. It's like the dream we're sold. 40 hours, 65, retire, grandkids die. It's like, is that really the life that I want to live?
Yep.
I mean, not really. So if I could roll the dice, and I think that I've always kind of been like an inherent risk taker.
The go-getter.
Right. Yeah. I feel like go-getter, but also like like I'm going to jump if I have the opportunity to jump,
Yeah.
I'm going to roll the dice no matter what the odds
But
are.
I feel like you gotta have confidence in order to do that, So you've had like you've been doing that long enough to where it's worked for you type. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah. I'd say, yeah, definitely the confidence plays for sure a part. But I think it's all confidence, but also like delusion. Like you kind of just want to like repeat it to yourself. Like there's no other way,
Yep. All right, jumping off of that, I just want to touch on your previous work experience, like Portillo's, HVAC, I believe, or like AC. Electrician, my bad.
Yeah.
And like what skills did those jobs like give you that you still use to this day?
Yeah. So my first job was at Portillo's. Shout out Portillo's at 16.
In Rolling Meadows.
Rolling Meadows, yeah.
Yep.
That was a beef maker, I guess sandwich maker. I don't know. I would make the beef sandwiches that people would eat, and I think that kind of taught me like the importance of working with friends because there was just a bunch of people from our high school that worked there.
Yep.
So work was kind of like, you would like the work group chats going just like, today's going to suck. But it's like, oh, he's also working today. Well, if it's going to suck, we're going to be in this together then.
Yep.
So I think that the importance of doing things with friends, I think that kind of made me that much more interested in like business with friends. Because like if working with friends is fun and you're getting paid hourly, if you could find a way to make your own money without a limit on it and do that with friends as well, that's kind of what I think I'm still chasing to this day.
Yep, for sure. And I feel like that's definitely an important message to the audience yet again, is that like if you could find something to be fun, like let's say playing sports, with a group of people,
Yeah.
why not like try to find a group of people that you could also like make money with, like,
Yes.
especially like, even here at Beloit College, we have like the economics and investment like club, you could just get yourself involved with those kind of people and just, really submerge yourself in like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think I just wanted to bring something up real quick. I feel like it's kind of, people are always kind of hesitant to talk about money, especially at a younger age, because we don't all start like at the same spot.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of break down that barrier of like not really talking about money.
Yeah.
And I think that business with friends is like a good way to kind of dive into that,
Yeah, and like you said, it's important for like people, the younger generations, to know about finances, like you said earlier.
Right.
So that's a good way for people to like start diving into that. Like, like even like talking about credit cards with your friends as soon as you turn 18.
Right.
Building your credit score, all these things are very important things in order for you to get loans out in the future, for a car, for a home, for even school loans, like all those things, all those things affect you. And like even knowing that like school loans affect your credit score and all those things, like are important things to know as like a growing adult.
For sure.
I kind of wanted to touch on one thing. I don't know if, hopefully it's fine with you. I remember a story that you told me about your electrician job, about what somebody told you.
Yeah.
Would you care to share that and how it has impacted your perspective? Clearly, it made your shift in your life, I believe. Right?
Yes. I appreciate you being hesitant with like the boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely okay with talking about it. So I was in Florida on vacation in early July, working as an electrician, but I was on vacation from the job at the time, and I was kind of thinking about moving to California, and I already applied for a solar job. I actually on vacation had like 2 phone interviews at the beach in Florida that I took, and I was kind of like, dang, like, is this what I want to do? Like, do I want to do this? And I was kind of like, it'd be cool just like say, screw it, I'm just going to move to California, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking about it, and then it was, Sunday. I had to go back to work on Monday, and I was at work on Monday, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he called me over, and he's like, Aaron, like, what are you doing here today? And I was like, oh, like, maybe he thinks I'm still on vacation. I'm like, oh, like, I was scheduled to work here today. Like, I'm scheduled to work here. And he's like, no, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you working this job? And I was like, what? And he was like, there's more for you out there than working this job. And everybody, all my coworkers at this job were all older Hispanic men. They all immigrated to the country later in life. And he was like, this is the opportunity that we don't really have a choice, right? We're stuck working here. You can go anywhere. You're young. And he kind of didn't really want to like, he was kind of like dancing around it, you could tell, but he's like, you're white. Like, you're a young white guy in America. Your like ability to do other things, you have that. We don't have that. You shouldn't be working a job like this. And we kind of, I don't want to say lectured me, but lectured me, for lack of a better word, on like how I should be doing something else. Like, I don't have to be doing this. There's more out there. And you could tell he was super passionate about what he was talking about, and it's absolutely true, And I think after that conversation, I never went back to that job again, which is not the right way to do things. Looking back on it, I should have put it
professionally, but
right. I should have put in 2 weeks notice.
You only live once, though. What if like, God forbid, you die in your sleep that night, and you're working the job that you just gotta live like it's your last day. Yes.
Disclaimer though, 19-year-old Aaron, I definitely would have done a 2 weeks notice and been a lot more respectful about leaving. But what actually happened is we had that conversation. It really, really, really resonated with me, and I never showed up to that job again.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being courageously vulnerable, you know?
yeah,
But I feel like it's definitely important for us to take into account that us as young people, we're like, we have the world at our hands, we can do whatever we
right,
want, and that we are blessed with that opportunity, that like age is one of like the hardest things to like, I mean, kind of like come to terms with, that once you
right.
get old, you can't really go back. So it's kind of important for us at a young age, and even the listeners, to like kind of, I don't know, take that into perspective and just really be appreciative of the time that we do have on this earth, and that like we should try to make any changes that we can, whether it be in our community, within our own lives, family, anything, you know.
Yeah.
Go as big as you can. That's all I gotta say.
And you can't buy time. I think it was
Exactly.
Charlie Munger, what's his name? The Berkshire Hathaway dude, Warren Buffett. His partner Charlie Munger, who's 99 years old, he just died, and he's like worth billions. You know, it's like billions, trillions, doesn't matter. Father Time will get us all.
Yep. So, kind of to jump into my next question, what was the first entrepreneurial moment that you experienced in your life, and was it during your childhood, or like when was like really your first like aha moment?
I would say it was probably off of streaming
Yep.
video games.
That was a topic that I was gonna jump into anyway on the next question, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was this one or not.
I grew up playing a lot of video games. I'm the youngest, and I have two older sisters. So when you're young, I'm super close to my sisters now, love them to death. But at the time, you know, when I'm younger, it's like my dad worked nights. You know, my mom would be doing stuff around the house. My sisters would be playing dolls. So I just kind of naturally fell into the video games to kind of distract myself. And eventually, you know, you play a lot of video games. My free time, I'd start watching video games on YouTube and
Yep.
stuff, and seeing different creators, the Phase guys back in the day, or Optic, whatever. It was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I want to try that. So I bought, you know, slowly over time through saving money, allowances, whatever. I bought, you know, a microphone, a face cam, a capture card to record stuff. And I started streaming and uploading YouTube videos to YouTube and Twitch.
Yep. That kind of leads me to my next question. So, well, the question I was gonna ask about streaming was like, was it your first experience starting something on your own? And the answer was yes.
Yes, 100%.
And then that leads me to my next question. So, how did it feel for you to receive the support and recognition for streaming from some of your closest friends, since it was your first like solo like endeavor?
Yeah, I'd say it's something I still think about to this day. I mean, I'm pretty sure even you used Twitch Prime back in the day to subscribe
Yeah.
to the channel. I think it's really important, and it means the world to me even now. Like, I know that I have a lot of people in my circle who will support whatever I do, and I think that streaming kind of taught me that, or showed me that, because when you're playing a video game, whatever, at night, and there's nobody in the chat, right? Nobody talking to you. You're just talking to yourself until somebody gets there. So
Yep.
having that one person, or those two people interacting in your chat, like talking to you, it's like, I know they're my friend, but maybe somebody else just being off of, instead of being on the 0 viewer list at the bottom of Twitch, now I'm on the I got 3
1,
viewers.
3, yeah.
Right. So now I'm boosted up a little bit, and just like that little 10% boost would help out so much. Or even when I never was like huge with it, but when my chat started to get a little bigger, people became mod in the stream, you know,
Yep.
they were able to kind of keep the chat in order and stuff. And yeah, the friends played a huge part in that. It would not have succeeded if it wasn't for them.
Yep, for sure. And I just kind of wanted to ask you this: like, what advice would you give to any young streamers, content creators, and just like go-getters in general who are just trying to chase their dreams? Because like, you've obviously like shared like your solar like
Yeah.
businesses and even streaming just in general. Like, what kind of advice would you give to people that are pursuing any of those things or anything that they're
Right.
interested in general?
I would say it comes down to, one, I'd say be yourself, right? You can't fake or force not being someone who you're not, right? And I think we as humans have a really unique ability to recognize that when somebody's faking, somebody's lying. And I think that true passion is shown through thick or through thin, you know? And I think that a passionate business owner is going to go so much further than a business owner who's just going through the motions, you know? And I think
Yep.
that often shows in your work, where whether it's, say, if it's streaming, if the person's, you know, talking excited because they care about what they're doing, or the person just like monotone reading chat or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even with like the solar, like if somebody's knocking your door and they are excited, it's like you could see the passion on their face. So I would say being yourself, and I would say passion would be like the two biggest things that I feel like I recognize in successful people.
For sure. Thank you for sharing. That kind of leads us into our next segment, or like our next little, I don't know, intermission, I would call it. We're just gonna be like a little prayer. If that's fine with you.
Yeah, of course.
So I'll just be praying for the people that are going through anything today, that feel unheard, that feel unwanted, that feel, I don't know, that they have nobody in their life to go to. Just know that I care for you, that Aaron maybe cares for you,
Yeah.
and just know that you're heard, you are wanted, and that you do have purpose on this earth. But aside from that, I kind of want to go to the verse of the day, which will be Psalms 95:6. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. Amen.
Amen.
So that'll be our prayer section for today. And then it'll kind of lead us into our next question. Not really prayer related, but just more general concepts. What are 3 values that you hold close to you personally as a man?
Great question. I think I know you said like on a not religious side, but I think that as I get older and I start to look at religion a little bit more, I think that a lot of religious values are what people should value as a man. I would say number one for me would have to be family. I think that you're nothing without family, right? We only get one family, we
Yeah.
only have one bloodline, and I think that family is something that I value like no other. And I mean, it's definitely part of the reason why I came back, to California or to Illinois. It's like seeing my parents get older, my sisters get older, different cousins having babies. It's like, I'm missing that,
Yeah, it's kind of eye opening, right?
for sure. So I think what I'd value the most as a man, number one would be family. Number two would be probably trust.
For sure.
If you have somebody on your side who you know you could trust, it's worth the world. And
Yep.
I think on the flip side of that coin, once you have somebody break your trust, luckily I haven't had that happen that much, but if somebody breaks your trust, it's like they've shown their hand. You can't fix that, right? Somebody breaks your trust, they're going to do it again.
Yep.
So I'd say family, I would say trust, and I would also say independence, which is probably something I find that I struggle with a lot myself, is like I often want to do things with friends, with families. A lot of the businesses I've done or ventures I've been with a group of people or with 2 other people, even one other person. And I don't know if I would do those same things if it was by myself. So I often catch myself when I reflect is like, I need to be independent and do this by myself, And I think that's a very important thing
Most definitely.
for me, but also for all men. So to recap, I'd say family, trust, and independence.
Yep, for sure. I kind of just wanted to drop like 2 bars going off that, Like when people show you who they are, believe them. That's kind of what you went off of. It's kind of what you said, I guess, in my eyes. And another thing, like another Jay-Z bar, like a man who can't take care of his family can't be rich. So
Dang.
that's another Jay-Z bar.
Jay-Z
right
said
there.
that? Shout out Hove.
Yep, Family Feud, if you want to listen to it, 444. Aside from that, what traits do you feel a great leader needs to have?
Humility. I
Yep,
think
you touched on that with Brian, I believe. Is those?
yes. I think a great leader needs to have humility. I think that envy is easy to spread along. I don't want to say the bottom, but if there's a leader, right, there's people below him who he's leading. And I think that envy often spreads amongst those people, and it kind of creates like a weird
Tension.
Yeah. So I think that a good leader who has the humility to bring themselves down to the level of the people who he's leading,
Yep.
I think that's very, very important. So I would say humility and vision, because the leader has to be able to spread the vision to the people who he's leading. And if the leader can properly convey the vision to the people he's leading, then it's unstoppable, But I think a lot of, leaders things get lost in translation, whether it's their fault or not. But at the end of the day, if the people who you're leading don't have the same vision as you, then there's a disconnect. That's not a good thing to have.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Next question would be, what are some changes that you would like to see made within your own community? And community can mean a lot of things, It can be like friend group, school. You don't go to school though, but even like your old school.
Right.
Like family.
Yeah.
All those things, even like Rolling Meadows, state.
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah. No, right away when you asked me that, I was like, what is my definition of community?
Yep.
I would say some changes that I'd like to be made would just be for more people to be more, I don't know how big of a change this is, but to be more upfront. I feel like ever since COVID, things are like, even things as little as like eye contact, it's like kind of like standoffish or kind of unspoken, or with the phones, it's like we act like people aren't there, and I think that it would be nice or a breath of fresh air if people were a lot more straightforward and direct with communication and how they're feeling. I think that would benefit a lot. But with that, kind of touching on the community aspect, somebody's not going to open up or be vocal if they don't feel comfortable. So I think creating safe spaces, such as even this platform that we're speaking on, your podcast, it's like things like this to give people an opportunity to feel safe, to then communicate and to be direct. Because if they don't feel like they have a safe opportunity, they're not going to be direct. They're not going to be open up. So I'd say that, and I'd also say it's so corny, but I'd say like taking care of the planet.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's not corny at all.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the questions that I would ask, like, what are your goals for like the Earth, in a sense? That's what I asked in like a different podcast.
I think it'd be nice, you see litter, or even the opposite, you see a clean park, it's like, well, people worked to make that park clean, how many people walk or cycle or whatever through there a day, and especially like waterways. I mean, you look at the creek, Salt Creek by us, you can see a lot of trash in there and stuff. So I think it'd be nice to see if we all treated the Earth just a little bit better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I feel like it's very sad that we see like our local parks and waterways and all those things, forest preserves, being trashed by people that just simply do not care about how like one piece of trash can collect to like thousands.
Right.
But with that being said, I don't know if you saw, but me and my fraternity, Sigma Chi here at Beloit College, had the opportunity to go to like join Protect Wisconsin Waterways. That's what the thing was called. We were able to get like 7 bags of trash, probably like full.
Dang.
And like I'm talking about like it could be like cigarette butts.
Yeah.
Like these things add up to like fill up trash bags.
Right.
And there were still like sections I was driving recently, like next to like the highway, that are filled with trash. That's like, because like people get off like a highway after like a long trip, they like dump out like their Minute Maid lemonade or like their cigarette butt or trash, and it really does add up though. And who's gonna clean it, And I feel like we do need to create something, like whether it be like state by state or like city by city, where it's like different groups that, I don't know, like Feed My Starving Children almost, where it's like people come together on their free time, like whether it's a Sunday, and like kind of just, I don't know, do God's work in a sense, cleaning the planet and just try and do better. And I feel like I personally want to lead that within Beloit, because I was able to get like around like 13 fraternity brothers, I feel like, and that was very empowering to me, because it showed me that I could, kind of like galvanize the troops.
Right.
And people, if you show people that you care about something, that's like a good thing, that people, fraternity members, frat bros, sorry to kind of like stereotype it, we'll wake up on a Saturday morning at 8 in the morning and feel the majority of a group that's cleaning a park.
Right.
Like we were like probably like 13 out of like 17 people there. And that's not to like diss anybody else, but like people might not expect fraternity members to be out there doing that stuff on a Saturday morning. They might expect them to be hungover in bed, or, like still partying, and like, I don't know, kind of, it's good to change that stereotype, not only, but like also contribute to the community, but like it showed me that like if you show people that you're genuine and honest, and that you genuinely care about something, I feel like they will be receptive to that. And I feel like that's something that the viewers should gain from this, at least, is that like, that if you pour your heart and soul into something, if you show something that you care about it, that somebody will be receptive to it. It doesn't need to be 100% of the crowd, but if it's 1%, that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I think that also that's like the first effect, but there's also like the secondary effect is like, let's say other frats saw you guys out there, or people within your school. It's like, well, if they did it, then maybe it kind of inspires them. So it's like it could have other positive effects that you might not even know that happened because of what you did, but it's like that still exists out there. It's like the tertiary, secondary good benefits that come from that.
That's what it's all about. It's kind of just like leading by example, It's like, even if for example, like I put it in like different, like my Spanish, like my freshman year Spanish group, like none of the people from there showed up. That's fine. But like even if I like know that I like put that effort in, I still planted that seed, knowing that there's a possibility that I did I tried my hardest, that I did what I could to try to spread this movement, and that some people were receptive to it, at least. So kind of going off, like, I kind of want to go into one saying that I have, based off of that. Sorry to cut you off, though.
Oh, you're good.
The saying that I have is like, when your intentions are pure, God is on your side. When God is on your side, there is no such thing as failure.
That's a bar.
I might say it again. When your intentions are pure, God is on your side. When God is on your side, there is no such thing as failure. And I feel like I really embodied that recently, because I feel like as humans, we kind of really need to change our definition of success.
Yeah.
And like we, like as humans, like to plan every aspect of our life. And when something doesn't go right, we kind of like to blame ourselves. But it's like, I feel like we should really just be free and like accepting of like every feeling, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we might not understand it now, but I feel like someday, looking back, you will 100% understand why it happened. And I feel like that's what I've been blessed with at 20 years old, is that perspective nowadays, is that like you look back and you might not understand why something happened, but later on you understand completely why. And I think that's God's blessing, God's work. But
Yeah, you dropped a Jay-Z bar. I want to drop a 50 Cent bar. Sunny days wouldn't be special if it wasn't for rain.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. So that leads us into our next topic. What/who motivates you to be the best version of yourself? Is it family, friends, close, acquaintances?
Yeah, I would say definitely Michael and Shizuki. They're definitely two very high-achieving people in my life, and I think that seeing them succeed, it's like, okay, you keep dropping bars. Now I'm in the bar dropping mode.
That's fine.
There's a quote. It's like I don't know how it goes, but you end up like the 5 closest people in your life, you know?
Sure.
So surrounding yourself with people who are doing good, or even if they're not necessarily doing the best, but people who are making that effort to becoming the best, it's contagious and it affects you. So I'd say Michael and Shizuki, the people I touched on earlier, my good friend Glide, my cousin Tomas, and also like just my sisters, Amanda, Ariel, my mom and dad. It's like you want to provide, because I think that's like another, you talked about values of men. I think that's one that comes to mind right now, is like a man. I believe in the Bible as well. It's like you're a provider, right? You want to provide for your family. So it's like a lot of times, I think, especially in the entrepreneur area, it's like there's a lot of selfish and negative things, there's greed, there's lust, whatever. But I think that ultimately your riches or whatever you make for yourself is that much better if you use it as a tool to provide. And I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying about with your intentions being good and God being on your side. It's like if you're seeking wealth or success and you're going to provide for others with it, I think that God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, recognizes that and will reward you that much more. So I think for me, I just want to succeed to provide for everybody in my family, my close life, my friends. I want to be that provider, but it definitely does not happen overnight.
Yeah, for sure. So that ironically leads me into the next question. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Man, that's quite the question. I honestly have no clue where.
But that's the beauty of it, it's God's plan.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I don't know where I see myself, but I'm
gonna put it this way, I kind of like this platform because it gives the opportunity for the guests on here to be able to look back at it 5 years from now. So
dang.
You know what I'm saying? What would you maybe like to say to yourself, or anything like that, even I don't know.
Right. I would say in 5 years from now, first off, I would love to be owning a piece of property or land somehow. For sure. That's definitely a big goal of mine. So 5 years from now, Aaron, if you do not own any land, if you didn't get an FHA loan yet, 3.5% down, if you didn't do that yet, go to Wells Fargo tomorrow and do that. But I would say I'd like to see myself owning a piece of land, and I'd like to be. I'm speaking kind of general because I don't know what it looks like yet, and I think that's part of what the 5 years is.
Do you see yourself in Illinois? Do you see yourself working solar still?
I don't know.
You're just all in the wind?
I'm all in the wind, man. I mean, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I would not have known I was going to be in California. So
I respect that. It's just a general question I like to ask all my guests, just because, like I said, I like to preserve the history and then be able to have them look back at the future,
Okay, I'm going to try and answer the best I can. I'd love to be living in Chicago, downtown particularly, because I think that Chicago is a dope city, and I think there's just so much more to do than the suburbs. So I'd love to be living downtown, doing a job or a business that ideally I could better online, because I think that gives you a lot of independence. So I think 25-year-old Aaron should be living in downtown Chicago with a job or a business that allows me to be independent and to do it from my computer or laptop, whatever. And this is corny, whatever, but I'd love to be in a relationship, because I definitely would love to get married younger in life. I think a lot of people wait kind of too long, in my opinion. So hopefully 25-year-old Aaron is cuffed and in a relationship that he plans to marry that woman down the line. So yeah, relationship, killing it in Chicago, and hopefully providing for my family in a meaningful way. I don't know what that looks like yet, but
Yeah,
that's part of the 5-year journey.
it's part of the experience that will be gained.
Yeah.
But I feel like you said, marriage is, I feel like, a goal of every man, and it should be, I feel like, at the forefront of every man's, like, values, is, like, having, like, a long-term, faithful marriage, especially. Right. But aside from that, what do you hope people remember you by once your time here has passed?
That is a crazy deep question.
It's the last one.
Yeah, no, I think about that often. It's like, I mean, even just being at a college, right? You see statues of people, and like, I don't want to speak for everybody, but when I see a lot of these statues, it's like, oh, like another old dead guy. It's like, whatever. But these people had huge impacts, but they just slowly get lost over the generations. And I would say the impact that I would love to be remembered by, was that the question?
Yeah, what do you hope people remember you by once your time here has passed?
I hope people remember me for being able to create good times. And I think on a small scale, I think I've been doing that really well within my friends and within my family, like going on adventures and doing fun stuff. But it'd be nice to, on a broader scale, inspire more people just to live in the moment and to create good memories. You know, I want to be that person, like, if people look at the old dead statue of me, they're like, oh, that guy created that, which allowed me to have so much fun with my friends, my family. So I guess create a system or a product or whatever that's a memory creator.
Yep.
Because memories, I think, last a lifetime. You can't take money to the grave, but I do absolutely believe, like, spiritually, however you want to word it, you can take memories to the grave. So if I could create good memories for other people, that would be a impactful thing to me.
For sure. And kind of going off that, I feel like one thing that I would like to say is, like, some people might not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you feel and how you made them feel. I apologize.
Exactly.
Like, so if you made somebody feel great every day you saw them, you said hello, how's your day going? You know, they'll remember that, how you made them feel. Like, you enlightened them. Every time they saw you, you were smiling. You brightened their day up. They'll remember that as opposed to, like, I mean, all the text messages you sent them.
Right. Like, I was trying to answer on, like, a broader
I'm just saying in
scale.
general. I'm just saying in general. Like, that was just something that came to my mind when you were talking that I wanted to relate to the audience as far as, like, my perspective. But sorry to cut you off.
No, yeah, you're good. I think definitely, like, if it was like I was dead tomorrow or whatever, like, I would want my friends and family to think about, like, how like you said, like, how I made them feel. Like, if I made them laugh and stuff.
But that's kind of like what you said with memories, I feel like, you know.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, 200 years from now, like, they see the statue of me, like,
no, for sure.
What do they think of? But I think, like, short term, it's definitely, like, just I want good times, you know? And I think that's kind of, unfortunately, my grandpa just passed away 2 weeks ago, and I guess it was...
Sorry to hear that, Paris, for you and your family.
Thank you. I guess it was a little bit longer than 2 weeks ago, but the funeral was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think funerals are, like, it sucks, right? There's no way around it, but it's also, like, I saw old photos I haven't seen in years of my cousins or my dad and his brothers and sisters, and it's like all anybody was talking about was just, like, the great memories of my grandpa and stuff like that. And also it brought together, like, our whole kind of family was together, which hasn't happened in a while. So it's like there's kind of that flip side of death. It's like the good memories always shine through no matter what the unfortunate circumstances.
And I feel like that's what I kind of want this platform to be able to do, is kind of capture those memories, to be able to relay them to future generations, and, like, even, like, our kids hopefully can be able to watch this in the future, you know, and be able to see this and think how we grew as college kids till we're 40 years old, 50 years old, you know. And every other guest on this that comes on, I want them to be able to look back and see how they've grown. And really, this platform is really kind of like a safe place for dreamers to share their dreams and see how they've accomplished them in the future. That's kind of what my objective is and what I kind of really want to do. And I want to record that history and, like, bring on people that have ambitious goals, such as Aaron, so he can look back in 5 years from now and 20 years from now and see how he's grown as a person, spiritually, physically, mentally, all those things, you know?
Yeah. So, and I think also there was something I read. It's like 10% of people create 90% of the content online. And it's like everybody, I'm talking on the camera, we all just scroll all day. Just scroll. And it's like your kids aren't going to remember you for how many times you scrolled, right? How many screen time you had. But creating something real and tangible like this, or it doesn't even have to be a podcast, but just creating something that's, like I said, tangible.
Yep.
That's what we pass down to future generations, whether it's digital or whether it's like a physical artifact. I think we all need to spend more time creating something versus just consuming endlessly, because it's a capitalist society. It's consumer,
Yep.
consumer. So I think a great way to set yourself apart and to better yourself is just to create whatever it looks like.
And I feel like as humans, as children of God, we are called to create and to like innovate, invent, and like just further develop things. I feel like that's why we're in the studio right now. That's why we're able to do this podcast. That's why we're able to
Right.
record history so easily by just going down to a studio, a floor down, and pressing a red button, as opposed to how they had to record, like, I don't know, stuff by hand back in the day and pen, ink and,
Crank the wheel.
Yeah, all those things, and it's just such a blessing, I feel like, that we take for granted. So that's kind of why I wanted to use my resources here at Beloit College to kind of
Shout out Beloit College.
yeah, record this history, and like I'm honestly just truly grateful, and I feel like God's blessed me with this opportunity to kind of share people's stories, and like I don't even do this for myself, I kind of just feel like I have all these great people in my life that have great stories. Why not record them? Because like they could be lost in the wind, lost in translation sometime, and I don't want that, because these are such great people in my life, that, and not just like obviously I respect Aaron so much, but like I'm just saying like all the other future guests that I have in mind that I've already agreed to come onto this platform, I don't know, I just want you guys to know that this is very meaningful to me, and that like I feel like big changes will be made with this platform within communities, within like people's own lives, and I'm just very excited for the future. But aside from that, like, do you have any closing thoughts or comments that you want to share with the audience, maybe to motivate them, or anything that you want to say, like to inspire, or I don't know, like what if you had like some 10-year-olds watching, that you kind of just want to like drop some words on them,
Well, I think
What
touching.
would you say to 10-year-old Aaron maybe?
Oh my goodness, to 10-year-old Aaron, I would say
And that's what this platform's about, It's kind of just reaching the younger generations.
I'd say keep being a kid. I think that, and this might be my advice for everybody else out there, 10-year-old Aaron to 100-year-old Aaron. I think that as we get older, and I think biblically, right, it's like the older you get, you stray further from God, whether that's intentional or unintentional. You're the closest to God when you're first born. You're pure at birth. And I think that as people get older, not even on the biblical sense, it's like we kind of, we take things more serious. It's like, oh, I have work, and work is meant to be taken serious, but it's like we kind of, kids usually are just, they're always happy, right? They're laughing. I know 10-year-old Aaron would be laughing at everything, and I think that I would want 10-year-old Aaron and 30 and 40 and 50 and 60-year-old Aaron to always have like that inner joy, that childlike joy.
Sure.
And I think we lose sight of that the older we get, and I think it's super, super important to keep that joy. My cousin Tomas, he always says like adults are just grown-up kids, and it's like we pretend like we're not. We dress up in big fancy suits and have fancy jobs, but it's like that's just it's still a child at the end of the day. And I think we lose sight of that childlike joy as we get older, and I think it's important to always keep that within you.
Yeah, for sure. And like one thing that I kind of have learned in my life, I guess, is like why do we need to like grow up in a sense? Why can't we always stay as kids? Because I feel like the people that I've like noticed, like even myself, like I feel like I am like creating at like my highest efficiency when I am like channeling my like younger self, and I feel like I see that within like the younger people around me, not the younger people around me, sorry, with like the creative people around me. Like for example, shout out Chase Nelson, shout out Greg Nelson. Ironically, they have the same last name, but they're both in my fraternity. Chase Nelson is a very talented artist. He take pictures of things around him and like distorts them and like puts filters and like changes the brightness, the hue, the saturation, all those things, and it doesn't even look like the original image. And I feel like that's kind of like what you would have done as a kid, and I feel like that's kind of a very powerful thing to do and be able to still do as an adult at 20 years old, you know what I mean? And like really channel that childhood energy, and you can see that it really makes him happy, and it really like, it satisfies his heart. So aside from that though, Greg Nelson, he also produces music. He's going to drop an EP soon on December 15th.
And where can we listen to that on?
On YouTube. It'll be called Unwanted on YouTube, and it is a very, what do I call it? Very, I don't know. It's a very good listen. It's a spiritual. No, I'm sorry. It's a listening experience. That's what I describe it as. I was looking for the right word, but I couldn't find it.
It's so good. Words can't describe it.
It's a listening experience. The samples on it that he made himself are very crazy to me. Mind blowing. He walked around downtown Beloit, recorded ambiance, chopped it up. You should listen to it. It's really good.
That's sick.
Unwanted by Gregory Kent Nelson on YouTube. GKN. It'll be releasing December 15th. or maybe earlier. It's in his hands. I've been working with him to kind of to get some footage for it and stuff like that for the rollout to kind of get some anticipation going. But yeah, those people really just channel their childhood energy, and I feel like that kind of really shines through, and it's very unique. It's not copying anybody else. They're doing their own thing, and I think that's what a lot of people don't do is they're not unique. They just try to mimic other people. They try to, they don't create for themselves, and I feel like that's what we really need in this world. So, you don't have any other closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say keep the childlike joy, and my mom used to tell me this every day before I'd go to school.
Yep.
She would say, kill him with kindness, and she'd say it every day before school. Actually, she'd say two things. If I'm gonna say the first part, I gotta say the second part. Second part, I don't know how much, whatever, but she would always say every day, like clockwork, elementary school, she'd say, kill them with kindness and get them before they get you.
All right.
And I don't know who I was getting in elementary school, I don't know if I had ops or whatever, but she'd always say, kill them with kindness and get them before you get you. And I think killing them with kindness, it's often easy to, like, you see somebody with a frown or whatever, and it's like, oh, like they're a bad person, but it's like, you don't know, everybody has their own intricacies in life, and I think that the most simple and safest way is just to be nice to everybody.
Yep.
If you kill them with kindness, I think also what you give to other people, you attract or you will receive also.
Sure.
So I think if you just go out there with a positive mindset and trying to be kind to everybody, I think that'll pay dividends to you in your personal life.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of going off that, I just want to say, like, lead with love, Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a leader, lead with love. Be authentically yourself, but also, like, don't be afraid to be courageously vulnerable. Don't be afraid to help whoever is getting picked on, because that's, like, the true definition of a leader is stopping something that's wrong, and stepping up whenever you feel you're called to by God or whatever it may be.
Right.
I'm kind of give my closing thoughts.
Yeah.
To end off, I just want to say thank you, Aaron, for your time today and for sharing your stories and knowledge with our audience.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully, we can continue to use this platform to empower others and inspire the next generation of leaders. And I just wanted to thank anyone who has made it this far in the video. Just know that I truly appreciate you and that I'm rooting for your success in any aspect that you're hoping to obtain it in. I'll be praying for each and every one of you, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you for your time, and this was the Imperishable Consciousness platform.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and God bless.